Yes, good morning. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to have a chance to speak to Sunny and to share uh, his perspective. Right? I guess life is just come and go, and I'm just curious because we have done good in this life, but what will be the next? We in this world we can only live. Many of them will only live not more than 36,500 days, which is about 100 years. And I strongly believe that, and it's getting stronger and stronger for me to feel that life is not just only in this life. There is probably another life that we will have to go. So I can't find any text. I can't find any people who can advise me. What will us be doing when we die and where we go? In Christianity, we say we go to heaven. But to me, I look at many people who are not Christians, and they are good people. Don't tell me that they don't go to heaven and where they go. And also in my life, I can always feel that the little things of the past, which is not in my this life, something that I feel very close to it, or something I feel very familiarized when we go to a certain place. This may be known as intuition. But I really believe there is a next life. And I really hope to find an answer, because I don't want to live like many of my friends who got heart attack and just go away, and things all stop and that's it. I believe there's something that we will go forward with. That means when we are dead, we'll go to the next life. And the next life, where are we? I just want Sunim to enlighten me on this. Thank you.
왜 어디로 가야 하나요?
Do we have to go anywhere?
Well, I believe there's some place that we will go. And I'm sure that it's probably another life. It won't just stop like that. That's it. When we die, that's it. I don't believe in that.
왜 다음 생이
So
있어야,
I'm curious.
왜 다음 생이 있어야 합니까?
Why does the next life have to exist?
Because we as human beings have our own perception, have our own thinking. We're able to do many things which animals are not able to do it. And probably it gives us an analytical thinking of our mind. And I'm sure life is not so short. It's just that we are here to experience the happiness and the bitterness of life. But I believe it's not so short, like 36,500 days, and that's it. I believe there is another life that we are going in. And I'm very curious to know about it.
아니 근데 궁금한 건 이게 다음 생이 왜 있어야 합니까?
But my question to you is that I'm really curious about is that why does the next life have to exist?
Well, in this life, I think we are human. We do bad things, and we are learning to be good. So I hope that in the next life, we can be better. That's why I believe there's another life, which is life after death. But nobody like to share all these things. But as I'm getting older, I'm in my 50s now, I'm not willing just to die like that. And I don't know where I will go next.
소는 죽으면 다음 생이 어떻게 되나요?
What happens to us? Let's say, my question to you is, if a cow dies, what happens to that cow in the next life?
I'm not comparing to a cow. I'm looking at human beings. But I believe if a cow dies, he may have also another life. Because their life is short.
사람 삶은 100년이 자기는 짧다고 생각합니까?
So you think 100 years lifespan for a human being is short?
Yes.
그래 오래 살아서 어떻게 하려고 그래요?
So what do you intend to do with this long life?
오늘 우리 인류가 다 1000살까지 산다면 어떻게 될까요?
So what if every human being lives to 1,000 years?
세상이 좋아질까요? 나빠질까요?
Do you think our worlds would get better or worse?
I'm not sure about that, but I believe if you're able to live longer, you can enjoy your life better. And you can learn how to be good over time. Because we learn from the mistakes that we make and we will improve ourselves. So if we are living longer, but in realistic, we were not able to do so. And I believe strongly there is always life after death.
오늘날 사회가 수명이 좀 길어져서 60 넘는 사람이 우리 사회의 비중이 절반을 넘는다면 그 사회는 좋은 사회일까요? 힘든 사회일까요?
So we have increased lifespan in this world. Say that, that 50% of the, of the population is over 60. Will that society be a good society or worse society?
In every age group, they have their own life to spend. They have their own way of living. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether it's good or bad. But I strongly believe when a person dies, there's somewhere to go, and a lot of people never talks about this, which I feel that it made me curious to find out.
자, 다시 한번 여쭤볼게요.
I'll ask you this question again.
우리가 전부 다 1000살까지 산다면 우리가 사는 세상이 좋은 사회일까요? 나쁜 사회일까요?
Say if everybody lived to 1,000 years old, will that make our society better or worse?
I guess as a person grows older, he become more wiser. So realistically, it's not possible that we can live 1,000 years. But I believe these are chapters of life. Every life is a chapter. And I believe there'll be a next chapter. But if you ask me about whether everybody lives 1,000 years, it will be good or bad, I can't answer you because everybody has their own life to live. And at every age group, your thinking is different as well. Like I don't think of this when I'm young. But as I get older and I saw people living around me, it prompted me to ask this question.
그러니까 다른 사람은 다 일찍 죽고 나 혼자 1000살까지 산다면 좋은 일일 수도 있습니다. 근데 모든 사람이 다 1000살까지 산다면 어떨까 물어보는 거예요.
So I guess it could be good for that one person, who lives to be 1,000 years old. If it's just that one individual. The question I'm asking is, if everybody lives to be 1,000 years old, is that good for us? Is that good for society?
Well, I really can't say that because I'm not able to live 1,000 years. But as I told you, strongly I believe there's a next chapter of life. We can't just burn our body and that's it because we have soul. Our soul will continue to live. When we continue to live, there must be somewhere that we go. And this thing has prompted me very strongly that I want to find out. I'm not just happy with current life that I'm living in. I believe there are more to it in moving on and going forward and going on and on. But I really can't answer you. If everybody live 1,000 years, will the society be good? That I really can't answer you because I don't have a chance to live into 1,000 years.
오케이, 그럼 제가 다른 질문 한번 해보겠습니다.
So let me go to another question then.
제가 초등학교 때가 입학할 때가 1960년이었습니다.
So when I first entered elementary school, it was 1960.
그때 한국의 1인당 GDP가 100불이었어요.
So at that time, South Korea's GDP, gross national product, was $100.
지금 제가 70이니까 63년이 지났습니다.
So I'm 70 years old right now, so it's been 63 years since then.
근데 지금 한국의 1인당 GDP가 35,000불입니다.
Right now, our South Korea's national GDP is 35,000.
350배가 늘었습니다.
Basically, the GDP increased 350 times.
그때 입장에서 지금 한국 사회를 보면 천국 이상입니다.
So if a person in 1960 looking at us today, this is more than heaven.
그때는 식량이 없어서 굶어 죽는 사람이 있었습니다.
Because at that time, back in 1960, some people still starved to death.
간단한 질병에도 많은 사람이 죽었습니다.
And simple diseases that can be cured kills a lot of people.
아이들이 학교에 못 가는 사람이 많았습니다.
And there are a lot of children who did not go to school.
대부분 시골에는 도로가 없어서 걸어 다녔습니다.
And everybody walked to everywhere in the rural area, the countryside.
그리고 난방은 전부 나무로 했습니다.
And we had to heat our homes using wood.
근데 지금 한국 사회는 정말 그때 살던 사람이 보면 천국 같은 그런 변화를 가져왔습니다.
But today's Korean society, if you were in 1960 looking up, looking into the future, it's heaven.
그럼 한국 사람들이 지금 350배 그때 사람보다 행복할까요?
Then do you think today's Koreans are 350 times happier than the Koreans living in 1960?
350배 아니다 35배 행복할까요?
Or maybe not 350, are they 35 times happier?
아니면 3배는 행복할까요?
Or at least are they 3 times happier?
아니라면
If that's not true, if that's not it,
앞으로 한국이 35만 불이 된다고 이 인간의 문제가 해결이 될까요?
then do you think that if Korea reaches a GDP of 350,000, that we would solve this problem?
만약에 아니라면 그러면 천국에 간다고 이게 해결이 될까요?
If that's not true, do you think we'll solve our happiness problem if we all end up in heaven?
왜 우리는 미래에는 해결될 거다, 천국에 가면 해결될 거라고 생각합니까?
So why do we always assume that we're going to solve our happiness issue in the future or when we get to somewhere, when we get to heaven?
그 미래를 그린다는 것은 현재의 불만이라는 거 아니에요?
So if you are really thinking about the future, then doesn't that mean that you're not satisfied with your present?
왜 지금도 잘 못 살면서 왜 자꾸 미래에는 잘 살 거라고 생각합니까?
So if you're not happy in the present, why do you think you'll be happy in the future?
왜 지금 행복하지 못한데 미래는 행복할까요?
If you can't be happy right here and now, then how are you going to make yourself happy in the future?
지금 나이가 50이라면 15살 때보다 지금도 행복합니까?
If you're 50 years old right now, are you happier now at 50 than you were back when you're 15?
그러면 지금 어른이 되고 돈도 벌고 결혼도 하고 했는데 왜 어릴 때보다 덜 행복합니까?
So you're now an adult, independent, you earn money, you're married. Then why are you less happy now than when you were a kid?
근데 왜 그것은 안 되는데 왜 죽으면 이게 해결될 거라고 생각해요?
So if you can't make yourself happy in the here and now, why do you think that you can make yourself happy after you die?
그러니 지금이 중요한 거예요.
What I'm trying to say is that right here and now is what's important.
지금이 행복해야 미래도 행복합니다.
Because if you're happy now, then you will be happy in the future.
지금 여기에서 내 삶이 만족스럽지 않는데 시간이 흐른다고 어디를 간다고 만족스럽겠습니까?
If you're not satisfied with your life now, then just because you go somewhere or the time flows into the future, you think that satisfaction will automatically be fulfilled.
어떻게 생각하세요?
What do you think?
think the question is not about happiness. The question is that I want to know whether is there life after death? Will there be another life, or will there be another place that I will go when I die? Yes, I can be happy and cannot be happy at this time, but sometimes when we die, we just die all of a sudden, and we will not have time to prepare for ourselves. So that's why my curiosity arose.
갑자기
When we
죽으면
die-
어때요?
Yeah. Well,
갑자기
is that
죽으면
the place-
어떠냐고.
Another place that we will.
So what if you die suddenly?
죽는데 왜 준비가 필요합니까?
Why do you need to prepare yourself to die?
Because I'm a very systematic person, I do my work very systematically. Everything, there's a system, and that's why I'm curious. Is there a place that we will go when we die? Or is there a reincarnation where we will come back again?
제가 하나 물어볼게요.
So I'm going to ask you another question.
낯설은 사람을 만날 때 마음에 약간의 두려움이 있습니까? 잘 아는 사람을 만날 때 마음에 약간 두려움이 있습니까?
So do you feel more anxious meeting a stranger for the first time or seeing somebody you're familiar with?
Yes, I feel more anxious and cautious when I meet a new person. Yes.
그러면 한 번도 안 가본 낯설은 곳에 갔을 때 약간의 두려움이 있습니까? 자주 가본 곳에 가는 게 두려움이 있습니까?
Then do you feel more anxious going to a strange new place or going to a familiar place?
Yeah, of course, if I go to a new place, I'll feel more anxious.
어두울 때 두려움이 있습니까? 밝을 때 두려움이 있습니까?
Do you feel more anxious in the dark or in the light?
In the dark.
내가 잘 아는 일을 할 때 두려움이 있습니까? 천년 한 번 해본 일이 아닌 걸 하라 그럴 때 두려움이 있습니까?
Do you feel more anxious doing something that's brand new to you that you're familiar with or doing something they're used to?
Of course, and something that is new, I will feel more anxious.
그러면 여기서 공통점이 뭘까요?
Then what's the familiar theme that's emerging here?
두려움은 왜 일어날까요?
Why? Where does that anxiousness come from?
I agree. In this life, I'm not anxious because it's familiar to me. But the next life, I'm anxious because it's a new thing to me.
그러니까 여기서 불안은 장소, 사람, 일, 어둠에 있는 게 아니라 모를 때 불안하다. 무지, 모를 때.
So what I'm trying to make a point is that your anxiety comes not from, a new place or the darkness or a new word or an unfamiliar place. It comes from not knowing.
Yes.
그러면 우리 인생에서 모른다 할 때 제일 모르는 게 뭘까요?
And from all the not knowable things in this life, what's the most not knowable?
Death.
그렇기 때문에 죽음이 두려운 게 아니라 죽음에 대해서 죽은 후에 모르기 때문에 두려운 거예요.
So you're not afraid of death per se. You're just afraid or anxious because you don't know what's going to happen after death.
Yes.
그래서 이 두려움을 극복하려고 옛날 사람들은 이 두려움을 극복하기 위해서 내생이라는 것을 생각해낸 거예요.
So people came up with different strategies to overcome this fear, this anxiety.
이것이 죽은 뒤에 더 좋은 곳에 가서 살 수 있다 하면 두려움이 좀 적어지겠죠.
And one of the strategies was that if you tell yourself that after you die, you go to a better place, then it mitigates your fear.
새로운 사람을 만날 때 지금 내가 만나는 사람보다 더 좋은 사람이다 할 때는 두려움이 적어집니다.
For example, if you're meeting a brand new person or a stranger, if you tell that stranger that this is a really good person, then it mitigates that fear.
새로운 곳으로 갈 때 지금보다 거기 가면 훨씬 더 경치가 좋다, 살기가 좋다 하면 두려움이 적어집니다.
And if you're moving to a new country, if you tell yourself that country is a lot better, quality of life wise than where I am today, it mitigates that fear.
그래서 죽은 뒤에 천당이다, 극락이다, 그건 좋은 것이다, 여기보다 더 좋다 이럴 때 죽음에 대한 두려움이 줄어듭니다.
So that's when we tell ourselves that when we go this place, whether it's heaven or somewhere else, that we go after death, it's a much better place where we are today, it mitigates and lessens our fear.
그러니까 이것은 인간이 두려움을 극복하기 위해서 낸 좋은 아이디어예요.
So this is a great idea, a strategy that human beings came up with to mitigate our anxiety and our fear.
근데 인도 사람은 이보다 더 좋은 아이디어를 냈어요.
However, the people in India actually came up with a better idea.
아무리 좋은 것이라도 그것은 가버리면 여기 못 오잖아요.
Because even if it's a great place like heaven, once you get there, you can't never come back.
근데 다시 태어난다 이렇게 주장을 한 거예요.
So they came up with this idea that you come back, you are reincarnated.
그래서 인도 사람들은 죽은 뒤에 울지를 않습니다.
That's why people in India, they don't cry when a loved one dies.
그리고 화장을 하는 거예요.
And they cremate them.
입고 있던 옷을 벗으려면 좀 아깝잖아요.
Instead of taking the clothes off that you have in your bag.
근데 더 좋은 옷을 입는다 하면 이게 안 아깝잖아요.
So when you said that you want to take off a clothing, that you don't want to throw it away, but somebody tells you that if you take that off, we're going to give you a better set of clothing, then you're willing to take it off.
근데 그래도 이 옷에 대해서 미련이 있습니다.
But of course, you're still kind of attached to your old clothing.
그래서 이 옷을 태워버리는 거예요.
That's why you burn them.
그래서 새로운 옷에 만족하도록.
So that you can be satisfied with your new threads, new clothing.
그래서 화장 문화가 나온 거예요.
That's why you created this culture of cremation.
그러면 죽을 때 안 두렵잖아요. 금방 돌아온다는데 뭐.
Then you're not afraid of dying because you're going to come right back.
이것이 진짜 윤회할까의 문제일까요? 두려움을 극복하는 방법일까요?
So is this the underlying question really about whether reincarnation is true or not, or whether this idea, this strategy is a way for you to overcome your fear of death?
그런데 부처님은 이 죽음이 하나도 두렵지 않는 법을 깨달아 버렸어요.
But what Buddha was recognized, he learned a way not to be afraid of death.
죽음이 두렵지 않으니까 내생이든 다시 돌아오든 이게 뭐가 문제가 돼요? 그런 게 아무 필요가 없지.
And once you're not afraid of death anymore, it doesn't really matter whether and this is it, this life is it, or you come back in the next life or whatnot. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter anymore.
삶에 대해서, 죽음에 대해서 아무런 미련도 없기 때문에 두려움이 사라져 버린 거예요.
Because you no longer have attachment to this life or to death, then all fear has disappeared.
그래서 윤회가 끝났다 이렇게 표현한 거예요.
That's why we describe that the cycle is done.
그래서 열애라는 말은 타타같다. 간바도 없고 온바도 없다. 이렇게 표현하는 거예요.
That's why one of Buddha's names by which he's called is that he who does not come and does not go.
그러니까 어디로 가느냐고 묻지 말고 조금만 더 공부하시면 갈 바도 없고 가는 것도 없고 오는 것도 없는 거예요. 갈 것도 없고 올 것도 없는 거예요.
So instead of questioning where you go in the future after you die, if you study a little deeper, you'll realize that there's nowhere to go, there's no coming, and there's no going.
그래서 지금 여기 깨어 있으라고 하는 거예요.
And that's why we teach be awake in the here and now.
네, 이것이 안 되는 사람은 이제 두려움을 좀 위로를 해야 됩니다.
But if you don't recognize that there's no coming or there's no going, then you still need strategies to mitigate your fear.
그래서 좋은 데 간다고 위로를 하든지
And you comfort them by saying that you'll go to a better place.
다시 태어난다고 위로를 하든지.
Or comfort them by saying that they'll come back.
네, 그것은 유용합니다.
And those are useful.
그러나 그것은 객관적 믿음을 객관적 사실이냐 아니냐라고 접근하는 것은 올바른 방법이 아닙니다.
But those are beliefs, and you can't judge the truthfulness of a belief from an objective perspective.
인도 청년이 저한테 이런 질문을 했어요.
A young Indian man asked me this question.
윤회하지 않으면 뭐 때문에 좋은 일을 합니까? 이랬어요.
He says, if not coming back in my next lifetime, then why should I strive to do good?
천국이 없으면 뭐 때문에 좋은 일을 합니까? 이래.
If there's no heaven I go to, then why should I try to be a good person?
제가 되물었습니다.
So I asked him a question right back.
좋은 일을 하면 지금 좋기 때문에 좋은 일을 하는 거예요.
So you do good because it's good for you here and now.
내가 그렇게 하는 것이 좋아서 하는데 왜 보상을 기대합니까?
And you do good because you want to do good, because it makes you feel good, then why do you feel like you're entitled to a compensation?
네, 선물을 기대한다는 것은 노예라는 거예요.
Because if you are expecting a compensation or a gift, then you become a slave to that expectation, to that gift.
예수만 하느님을 믿어야 천당 간다고 만약에 한다면
Say that if you have to believe in God or believe in Jesus to go to heaven.
내가 하느님을 믿지 않았는데 천당에 갔다면 기독교인들은 저보고 뭐라고 어떻게 생각할까요?
But if I'm not a Christian and I ended up in heaven, what would all the other Christians tell me or say?
안 믿어도 천당 오네.
They'll say, you know what, you don't have to be a Christian to come to heaven.
괜히 믿었잖아.
Then I say, you know, why did I waste my time going to church?
이렇게 생각하기가 쉽잖아요.
Because they'll probably think that way.
그러니까 내가 천당에 갔을 때 그들이 아이고 하나님께서는 안 믿는 사람도 이렇게 구제하시네. 아이고 하나님 훌륭하십니다. 이렇게 말해야 안 될까?
But if you're a true Christian, if they see me in heaven, should they say that, you know what, God is so generous that he even saves the non-believers?
왜 안 믿는 사람을 저주합니까?
Then why do you curse and criticize the non-believers?
안 믿는 사람을 더욱더 불쌍히 여기고 더욱더 천당에 먼저 보내야죠.
Yeah, they should actually take pity on the non-believers and make sure they go to heaven first.
그렇기 때문에 그런 믿음은 이기적이라는 거예요.
So that's what I'm saying is that all these beliefs are really self-centered.
나쁜 짓은 실컷 하고 결과가 좋게 되겠다는 욕심이지 않습니까?
Because what they want to do, they want to do all the bad things, everything they desire, this, but they want the end result to be good for them.
왜 우리가 좋은 일을 하는 것을 보상을 기대합니까? 좋은 일을 하는 것이 나한테 좋은 일이잖아요.
And so why do we expect good things in return for doing good things when doing good thing in itself is good for us?
그러니 내 생을 얘기하지 말고 지금 좋은 일을 하고 살면 지금 좋고 내 생이 있다면 가장 먼저 가게 돼 있습니다. 그러니 따지지 말고 안심하세요.
So don't think about life after death, because if you're doing good now in the here and now, no matter what happens, you're bound to go to a good place.
천국이 있으면 내가 제일 먼저 갈 거고
If there is a heaven, then you'll be the first one there.
윤회를 한다면 내가 복을 받을 거고
And if there is reincarnation, then you will be blessed in your next life.
없어도 상관없고
If there's nothing there, it doesn't really matter anyways,
왜냐하면 지금 만족하니까.
because you're already happy with your present.
그런 삶은 살면 어떨까?
And how about living your life that way, fulfilled in your presentness?
Well, I guess the enlightenment is, from Sumi is good, but I'm still curious, and I hope that I can research in anywhere to find the truth. Yeah, I do look at it differently now. I should do good at this life, and I will go to a better place. But I hope that I can find some truth in the next better place.
믿음은 이 정신적인 작용이기 때문에 객관적으로 증명할 수가 없습니다.
Yeah, a belief is something that cannot be proven objectively.
한 사람이 신이 있다 그러고 한 사람이 신이 없다 할 때는 이것은 결론이 나지 않습니다.
If somebody argues that there's a God, somebody counter argues that there's no God. You can never come to a conclusion.
윤회를 한다 그러고 한 사람은 윤회를 하지 않는다 할 때도 아무런 결론이 나지 않습니다.
Same thing. Somebody argues there's reincarnation. Somebody argues there isn't. There's no conclusion.
그것은 믿음이기 때문입니다.
Because it's a matter of belief, of faith.
믿음은 그냥 존중해야 합니다.
All we can do with faith is respect it.
그럴 때 어느 것이 옳으냐가 아니라 믿음이 다르다 이렇게 보면 돼요.
Instead of right or wrong, a belief is something that's different from each other.
그러니까 저 사람은 신이 있다고 믿구나, 저 사람은 없다고 믿구나 이렇게 그냥 받아들이면 돼요.
You just accept that person believes in God and that person doesn't.
자기가 그 문제를 갖고 연구한다고 죽을 때까지 해도 그것은 결론이 날 수가 없는 일입니다.
It's, you may research more if you like, but in the matters of faith, there's nothing that's a definitive conclusion they will arrive at.
내가 질문을 하나 던져볼게요.
So I'm going to throw this question at you.
모래로 밥을 하면 몇 시간 만에 됩니까?
How long does it take for you to cook sand into rice?
I think I don't cook, but I think it's about 10 minutes.
한 10분이요?
Now, taking sand and make it a rice out of sand. How long does it take to make rice out of sand?
It's not possible. Sand you can eat.
내가 당신에게 묻는 질문은 몇 시간 만에 됐냐고 물었어요. 몇 시간이라고 대답해 보세요.
The question I ask is that how many hours does it take to take sand and cook it into rice? So you got to answer in terms of how many hours it would take.
I'm not sure. You mean getting sand to cook into rice?
Yeah, so make rice out of sand. How many hours does it take to make rice out of sand?
I don't think it's possible.
그러니까 모래로 밥을 하면 몇 시간 만에 되느냐 해서 질문이 몇 시간 만에 되느냐는 질문은 모래로 밥을 하면 된다는 것이 전제되어 있습니다.
So if somebody asks you how many hours it takes to make rice out of sand, there's an underlying assumption that you can make rice out of sand, right?
근데 사실은 모래로 밥을 하면 되지 않습니다.
Yes,
but
but
the fact is you can never make rice out of sand.
precisely.
그러니까 몇 시간만이라는 그 질문에 현혹되면 안 된다는 거예요.
So the way I framed the question, how many hours does it take? You can't fall for that frame, that question, the way I said it.
어떤 사람이 나에게 묻습니다.
So similarly, somebody asked me this question.
불교에서는 이 세상을 누가 창조했습니까?
They say, in Buddhism, who do they teach in Buddhism created this world?
누가 했지?
Then you say, who did it?
그럴 때는 이미 창조했다는 것이 전제되어 있다는 거예요.
Then if I say, I try to figure out who created this world in Buddhism, I automatically assume that somebody created this world.
과연 창조했다는 전제가 허물어져야 합니다.
So it's that presumption of somebody creating the world that has to go away.
자기가 나보고 죽으면 어디로 가느냐고 물을 때 간다는 것이 전제되어 있다는 거예요.
So when you ask me the question, where do I go after death? There's an assumption that you go somewhere.
Yes.
간다는 전제를 왜 합니까?
Then why do you assume that you're going somewhere?
Because life is not so short.
삶이 너무 짧기 때문이죠.
그것은 모래로 밥이 된다는 전제와 같습니다.
The same thing as you try to make rice out of sand.
그래서 제가
That's
제일
right.
첫 번째 질문에 왜 어디 가야 됩니까? 이렇게 물은 거예요.
That's why my first question back to you in the beginning of this conversation was, why do you have to go anywhere?
네, 조금 더 근본적으로 한번 살펴보시기 바랍니다.
So I want you to kind of fundamentally ask, questions about your own foundational assumption.
우리는 모래로 밥을 하면 몇 시간 만에 되느냐 해서 전부 다 몇 시간 만에 되지 이걸 갖고 지금 계속 연구하는 거 있는 것과 같습니다.
So basically, what we're doing here is like somebody asked us the question, how many hours does it take to make rice out of sand? And everybody runs around trying to calculate how many hours it takes.
밥이 안 되는 게 뭐 내가 밥을 잘 할 줄 몰라서 그런 줄 압니다.
And we think, we can't make rice. We fail to make rice out of sand because we're not skillful enough.
우리가 이런 관념에 빠져서는 안 됩니다.
So we can't allow ourselves to sink or be tricked into following in a preordained framework.
그래서 부다는 이렇게 말했습니다.
That's why Buddha said this to us.
과거로부터 전승된 윤리나 도덕, 관습이나 습관, 경전이나 계율에 의해서 진리를 증명할 수 없다.
That truth cannot be proven or examined by traditions, by culture, by ethics, by rules that have come down to us from the past.
지금 직시해라.
You have to gain insight into the truth right here and now.
눈 있는 자 보라 하게 분명하다는 거예요.
It says because if you have eyes, you can see.
네, 오늘 여기까지 하겠습니다.